So this has been a really good experience for John and I, right?
Absolutely.
We have researched and gone back into files that Mom and Dad kept, and it revitalized and renewed what we knew, but we also discovered more information. So thank you, Bay, for asking us to do this. The land, originally, our grandfather, Anton Fornetti, had a store on the opposite side of the street on the west side of US 2, directly across from the college here. And his store originally was out along the Menominee River. When the highway changed in 1934, Grandpa decided that he was going to lose business, so he better move to this area. So he purchased land on both sides of US 2. And in 1947, we had an uncle who owned a portion of this land. In 1951, he gave permission for my dad to purchase the land. So the house was actually, our family home was built back in 1951. The family was here all the time. We had great times, great celebrations. We have a pond in the back that we skated on. There were just all kinds of activities, right, John?
We did. You know, it's I remember the pond is right behind us now, and going back there, shoveling it off to get the skating rink, and we would have bonfires back there, roast hot dogs, and
yes.
We had a wooden bench there and a log that we used to sit on while we're having our gatherings out there, and other kids would come over. It was just a great experience. Lots of fun. I shot my first deer over here in this corner. I mean, there's just so many memories on this property for Judy and I and our brothers and sister. It means a lot to us.
This was our home, you know, and it meant so much to us, and our parents really made a great time for us growing up. And then along this line, Mom grew up in Kingsford. She was the youngest of 3 children. She had 2 sisters that were able to go away and get some education. And then when Mom was ready to graduate from high school, her mom became ill, and her dad, John Campanola, said, "Eleanor, you're staying here to take care of your mom." So that's what happened. So Mom never had the opportunity to get to further her education. And as each one of us got college degrees, she felt like she was the only one that didn't have one, always felt that part of her life missing. She even tried, as a matter of fact, she did a correspondence course. She probably was the smartest of the bunch. When
She probably actually was, yeah.
And she would have done extremely well had she been able to have that opportunity to go to school.
Mom never felt complete because she never had the opportunity to further her education. Even though she went on and did some very amazing things, she herself never felt complete. And that was the missing link. And so as we talk more about why did our family give this to Bay?
So that was probably the first step. Mom's desire always to have an education, and she felt that if it could be provided to young people in this area where they didn't have to leave, they could have a job, they could take care of a parent if they needed to, or do whatever, and still become educated. So that was the first step. The second step was actually in the early 1980s. Mm-hmm. Our parents decided, my dad was retired as a dentist, and they decided to do some traveling and to do some volunteer work. So Dad looked into a lot of programs, and they found one that was available in St. Lucia in the West Indies. So they applied, were accepted. So for the month of March during the years of 1983 and 1984, they went there and volunteered.
Right. And, St. Lucia then isn't what St. Lucia is now. It was extremely primitive. And so they actually worked at a hospital, which I think Judy was like World War II, right? They brought in soldiers and things,
Yes,
and
it was a stopping off place for them before they came to the U.S.
kind of a MASH unit before they came home. And so there were times of day where they only had electricity. And so oftentimes when they were doing this missionary work, there were people, volunteers that weren't there for months. And so sometimes when Dad would come, they would have known this and people would be lined up waiting. They've walked. There was no cars or anything. They walked. And some of them walked carrying their babies with them, miles through the jungles or whatever. And so there was a gentleman there who kind of ran the clinic. And he was the person that all of the locals depended, the natives depended on when nobody else was there. And Dad really took a liking to him. His name was Eden Lrand. And Dad said he could take out his teeth as well as Dad could, right? With all this experience that he had at the time. He could do root canals. He could do these different things.
He learned from each of the dentists that came, the volunteer dentists.
And so
really
he would pick up,
skills.
right,
Yes. Yep.
this from that dentist and this from that dentist. And he was this wealth of knowledge. However, he had no credentialing. He had no licensing. He was just there to help people. And back then in St. Lucia, the government really hadn't stepped in with regulations and things yet. But as time went on, the government was like, we need to get our native people the help they need. So we're gonna open up and get some education going and different things. Before all that happened, Eden was doing all these things and getting no recognition for it. And financially no recognition for it either. And so he, and Dad recognized this and said, well, Eden, maybe if we can get you to the United States for a little bit, maybe we can get you some sort of a certificate in something. And that would help you. And it would help promote not only you, but what you're doing here in St. Lucia. And so Dad approached a number of different dental schools, right?
Yes.
And they just really were not interested in at all trying to help. And so Dad and Mom then said, why don't we just see what we can do through Bay College? And so that opened up a wonderful door. And it was not only that Bay said yes, I think it was how Bay said yes. They were just like,
excited and just ready to move in and help Eden.
I think they said yes before they figured out, okay, this will be the plan.
Logistics.
We'll figure out the plan for him and we'll get him through it. And we had language barriers and things that we had to overcome, and I think Bay helped with some tutoring, so we could overcome that. He worked in various offices doing dental lab work in the Escanaba area. And it just was wonderful. I think it was hard for Eden in the sense he had to leave his family. He had 3 young children at the time, and his wife, Berthia, and that was very, very difficult, I believe, for him. And then the climate is different, and he was
always cold.
Very, very cool.
Very
He would
cool.
say that over and over and over again. But he got his certificate, and so then from that he got some recognition, and he was able to help even more people.
And some better pay.
Better pay.
It just worked out very well. So that was back in 1985, when he was here for a semester. Bay granted him the certificate. He went back to his family and to the country. And then there's a lapse of some years. And then in going through things, I found a letter that Dr. Mike Elkins had written to Dad, and I think probably to other people. But we have to remember that Bay College initially was here and was at the American Martyrs Catholic school. That's where they had classes.
Yep.
And they were going to move, in 2003, they were going to move to the CCI building on Carpenter Avenue. And they needed money for renovations to get that kind of thing. So that letter was sent to Mom and Dad February of 2003. And during this time, our parents, you have to remember, were 80 and 82. So the property was getting to be difficult for them to care for, and they were thinking about, what are we going to do with the property? They said they wanted something. They didn't want to just sell it. They wanted it to be good for the community, good for young people. That was their big deal, because so many of us, we had so many friends here. There was always young people, and they felt if they could honor that, their wish of being able to continue to bring young people here, have them realize their dreams, that kind of thing. So
that's awesome. And I think Mom and Dad realized that when we were growing up and we were just young, that it was important for them to make an investment in this property for our family. And when you think about it as a parent, right, you kind of want all the kids hanging out at your house so you know what the kids are up to, right? And so they made that investment. And then they wanted, now they're in their 80s, and that part of their life is behind them. Now they're thinking about, what is the legacy? What are we going to leave behind still with this property? Because there's something special about these grounds. And so I think, like you said, Judy, the timing of that letter from Dr. Alkins, and Dad and Mom receiving that and thinking, I think it was like a light bulb went on and said, what if we did this? And there was all sorts of hurdles, and they said, no, let's go ahead and let's give this property to Bay, see if we can get a college campus right here on this property.
So again, with the date, that happened in September of 2003. They recalled how wonderful it was that Bay did so well with Eden, and how Eden's life was changed so much, by his experience of getting an education at Bay. And they wanted to do that for people locally. So 2003, September, they gave the property to the college.
Yeah, it really wonderful. You think about, right, the property here started with us, right? It's always the ripples in the pond, right? And so the first ripples were us kids, right? And then when Mom and Dad are in their 80s, they're finding it difficult. This was a 2-lane road out here, US 2, when they built the house in 51. And now 4-lane highway, there's industry around, cars are zipping by, and it's hard for them to pull out of their driveway. And so they're like, we need to move on. And so moving on meant new ripples in that pond for students, like Judy said, like allowing them to fulfill their dreams. Like, this is a great place to be a ripple in that pond of dream fulfillment.